Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Capricorn September 2023 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, clairvoyant, and I've done a number of one-on-one clairvoyant readings for Capricorns over the course of the last month from different parts of the world over FaceTime and Skype. And if you might be interested in seeing what's involved, check out the description. Now, I've also done a number of healings separately as well. Now, when I was born, I was granted the spiritual gifts of clairvoyance and also of healing. But my soul contract is that with respect to healing, I am not to receive any benefit from it. So, although I charge for readings, healings are provided for free, with no strings attached, no obligation, nothing is sold or recommended at all. Check out the information that's in the description if you might be interested in a healing or know someone who is. Doesn't cost anything other than your time. Now, as the subscribers know, and it's great to see the subscribers again, thank you for welcoming me into your home each month. I love to see you, really I do. You know that we don't have any video advertisements breaking their way into this content, do we? So you get to enjoy the experience of the reading, direct and uninterrupted by video intrusions. And you also know that we just take 5 cards because we don't spend 2 seconds on a card. Rather, they're very talkative, each one of them, and there's a lot which they throw up for you to consider and to bear in mind. Now, let's get now, with respect to the imagery, I might use my pen to point out a couple of things that I find interesting, but of course it's open. That's what I find. Now, you of course are free to look at the cards in any way that you choose to. I just see what I see. Now, let's take those 5, shall we, and get this underway for you. Here is Death, 2 of Cups, Knight of Swords, Princess of Discs, Princess of Wands. Now, what you don't normally see me do at all is I'm going to take what do you call these? These were given to me. I don't normally do these sorts of things, but when I meditated on the imagery on them, things did come up to me, so I'm just curious to see what might come about with respect to the art on this, what I call a mood card, for you for this month. And let's see what there is. Access clear thinking. Well, why don't you come, sit down here now next to me. You and I will have a good close look at the fascinating imagery on these cards together. Well, I do the reading for you. Fantastic. Let's have a look at this thing first. Now, whatever you call these things, it says access clear thinking. Well, I think that's particularly important to you. A couple of reasons why. First of all, if you concentrate, you become in the present, and other things which might be disturbing you are put to the side. And you get rid of anxiety, you get rid of fears, you get rid of worries when you concentrate on something. The other thing is that when you in particular concentrate, you work out the most efficient way of getting something done or reaching your goal. The other thing I think that this speaks about when accessing clear thinking is to say, and also particularly for you, is that your thinking should be balanced between different areas of your life, not just work and achievement, the practical things which you have to hand, but also relationship and also the spiritual as well. Because you, like me, am only here for a short time, but our soul lives on for eternity. Now let's have a look to see what there might be first up here in the tarot. This is Death. Well, it's a very interesting picture, isn't it? Let's have a look at it and see what it says. Now, first of all, the sign attributed to it is Scorpio. That's a Hebrew letter. That would be Nun, is what I'm getting at. I'll mention that in just a second. Let's have a look at the painting that's here. And, well, what's interesting is here that the skeleton, now this is Scorpio, remember, the skeleton is riding a creature that is comprised of 3 parts, which have all have something to do with the sign of Scorpio. Now, the tail aspect here is that of the scorpion itself. That's the lowest part of Scorpio, the first stage or beginning of the Scorpio element's will to change. The mid part of the animal, you see this thing running up here, that is the undulating snake of the cycle of life and death. Now, the upper body is that of the eagle, which is the gaseous or purest stage of Scorpio, which rises in exaltation above matter. Now, of course, here's the traditional scythe that's there. Here is a fish, and I'll get to that in a second. And here are serpents that are coming up out of the sea, pyramids here. What's interesting is that these pyramids they're tombs, of course, but they were built to sort of be alive in a sense. Because you see these different stars that are up in the sky here. The pyramids were built to be able to see particular stars at particular times of the year. And these snakes coming up out of the water, they are reference to, now I'm pretty sure it's a thing called a benben, which was the final stone that they put on top of the pyramid. The benben was associated with the earliest creator god in Egyptian mythology, which rose up out of the sea and then became a top, and so took his place at the top of creation. So that is what that is in a nutshell, at least as far as I can make it out. Now, of course, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, the planet of fiery energy, and here in its lowest form, which is necessary to provide the impulse to change things here. Now, what I'm getting around here is feelings of transformation with you, a sort of a death and resurrection, so something going through a process where you're letting something go, but then bringing something back in a better form. And also you're becoming free of old ensnarements. And there's some external changes going on here, certainly some endings around you. I think letting go of emotional attachments. And it's the end of a cycle that's going on here. Old relationships, I think, are demanding to be disintegrated. Now, this process could be bound together with painful experiences. However, because you've drawn the card first, I think that this indicates that you are ready for it and that you are going to be fine. The act of letting go, difficult as it can be, is actually going to free you. Now, this here is this helmet. He's looking backwards here, and this helmet here is the old ancient king's sort of hat in ancient Egypt. But here's this skeleton looking backwards. And he's saying that I'm looking back at old bonds which have been confining you and preventing life. And so that any desire for you to hold on to or cling to old things will cause their death to appear that much more agonizing. You've got to renounce those things, give them up. Of course, you know that in order to grow, you must abandon the old. So death is actually your protection against stagnation. And you're being forced to leave behind what you have actually outgrown. So it's a time, I think, of some major transformation, of cutting to the core of something and allowing the sunlight to come in so that new things can grow. I also think it's about you facing your fears and breaking limits. That is, you pushing through things, having the confidence to bet on yourself, and you will win. Because you need to grow to learn your life's lessons. And I think it's time to cut away those things that no longer serve you. You see, you are now ready to make the necessary changes in your life and accept any aggravation that may come with the loss of the old. And maybe ask yourself, to what outdated relationships or situations are you clinging to? Say this to yourself: I let go of people and situations with ease and dignity. Every ending shows the new beginning. I am now ready to say yes to death and yes to myself. Now, I want to have a look at the other side of that diagonal. There is a great card for love that's up there. See, this is just so good for you. But I'm just drawn to this, I think, because I just like all the fire that's around it. I think the Princess of Wands, yeah, she's the princess, the rose of the palace of fire. Well, here she is. And this Princess of Wands has above her is a crest. This is a sign of intellect, reason, and wisdom, and that's what you will have at this time. All this fire coming up is energy coming towards you. She is the rose of the palace of the fire. And here is a ram's head, horns coming out of her there. Now, if I was to say that people are likely to be important to you at this time, I would say that Leo is going to be important to you. I think Cancer, and I think Virgo is going to be important to you. Now, she's standing, she has some sort of an animal skin holding onto there, and but she's standing open, showing that she's not afraid. Now, she's sort of one with the tree trunk, isn't she? So she's become one with, almost with the ace. So she has potential within her, and she has ability to get things done within her and to make them tangible here. Now, she is esoterically the earthy aspect of fire. Now, what's happening here is that now you are becoming freed from fear. And this also is talking about new beginnings, but with an optimism and an increased understanding of things here. You see, fear is conquered. The Princess of Wands here is naked above her dress, open and unprotected, because she has conquered fear. And this club that she holds is on fire, which is a symbol of the sun. And this flames around her head also indicate her increased perception and sense of justice, which she has gained by overcoming her fear. Really, the altar ornamented with the ram's head, well, that's the fire of spring, I suppose, which is new beginnings, because Aries is spring. New beginnings that are around here. And this fiery red background that's there symbolizes your passion, vitality, and flaming energy. Do you know, when fear disappears, undreamed of springs of enthusiasm and joy bubble up, revitalizing your life. Your self-limiting fears, the corpse of this now dead tiger, can be buried and forgotten. Your old fears have lost their power over you. Their dead remains cannot frighten you any longer. So reflect now on your greatest strengths. Now, even though it says a princess, this can be of either gender, of course, and this represents somebody who is at this time confident, daring, exciting, nonconformist, freedom-loving, I think, and certainly ambitious. And you know what? People are going to love your character and energy. You will bedazzle people at this time, and people are going to find you very sexually attractive, so make sure you've got your life jacket on. I've got to say this, though, and there's just something that's just coming up around the end here, that you could find that you may have a temptation from time to time to be vengeful or temperamental, unruly, shallow, or cruel, or you may know someone who is this. But this definitely refers to you conquering old fears and patterns of thought. You've brought them to the surface and conquered them. Although it has to be said, you have often learned lessons the hard way, haven't you? I guess, what is the next step in your life? Find it now fearlessly. Learn about ways of transforming fearful thinking. And say to yourself, my greatest strength is, and then fill in the dot, to fill in the blank. And say this to yourself, as I accept, name, and confront fear, it is transformed into love. Well, let's have a look. Now, I do want to talk about this love card here, but I wanted to get through this interesting... What's this thing mean, I wonder? This is the fiery part of air. Fire and air, of course, you know, get on famously. So here's this energy again for you at this time, or this might be somebody that you know is what I'm thinking, and have a look at as well. Now here is, I'm getting Gemini around here. I'm also getting Taurus around here. I'm getting Gemini because these are this six-pointed star. That was Castor and Pollux were the twins. I think they're up in the constellation of Orion, aren't they? I might not be right, but I think so. They were the twins, Castor and Pollux, who are associated with that six-pointed star, and of course twins, Gemini. So I'm getting a Gemini person that may be around you. Obviously, a man in full flight and going on against and belting through. In fact, he's probably flying through the air by the looks of it here, which is sort of what this person does. He's like the tempest. He's like the wind storm. And I think what you will have the energy of the mind, which is that Gemini aspect, I suppose, but with the influence and stability and determination of a Taurus, which I see around here. So you will be active, clever, skillful, fierce and courageous, but sometimes just make sure you think about things. Don't be unreflective. You'll be very goal-oriented. Ambitious, again, it's coming through. Flexible intellectual powers, and again, a great degree of passion. Now, I've got to tell you again, and I don't mean any disrespect about this, but I do get this sense of aggression that's here with you as well. Do you know, your strong intellectual determination is going to become unified with a deep emotional understanding. And only goals which are emotionally charged will be able to elicit great passion in you. And I think what we have here is that you will have body, mind, and spirit in perfect harmony, and they'll be flying alongside of you. I see you having clear insight into a problem, working quickly to set goals and not letting anything getting in the way. Nevertheless, I think this is something of a restless period that we have here. You see, this is something it's akin to a windstorm, a tornado that's coming through here. The great power of air in motion is what's around you. And so I think it's time to listen to your head rather than your heart. Because I get the idea that he's somebody who's more comfortable in his head rather than expressing feelings. But you don't have a problem expressing feelings. But there's a restlessness here because of this tremendous power of the air coming through, a restlessness in all aspects of life. Maybe you wanted to take a bit of a break from the workplace. Do you know, you might know somebody else here that's around that has one of these relationships where they break up, they get back together, they break up, they get back together, they break up, get back together, but then one of them says, oh, look, I just cannot deal with this anymore, and you hear about them calling an end to it finally. But you are now in a position to forge plans, to set goals, and to make them happen. But I'll ask you this question. Do you know what your goal is? Can you specify it exactly on a piece of paper in one sentence or less? Well, I can't have less than one sentence, but in one sentence. And what happens when you achieve it? And imagine how best you'll be able to enjoy your success. And say this to yourself. I know my goal. I know what I am working towards. Each goal is just a milestone on the way to my ultimate destination. Now, before I get to this card of love here, I do just want to, while I remember it, while we were talking about, you remember when we just talked about death just a second ago? I said there was a Hebrew letter here. which is Nun. Now, actually, Nun is the symbol of faithfulness and soul and of emergence. And it stands for humility as it's bent. You see how it's bent? And it's bent from the bottom and it's bent from the top. And actually, I'm looking at this fish here. In Aramaic, which was the language that was spoken around Judea, that's the language that the Jesus Christ would have spoken, Aramaic. Nun means fish. So Nun could be thought of as the fish that swims in the waters of the divine saturation. And it's connected to fertility, continuity, and the ability to increase and multiply. Now, it indicates the presence and the humility of the soul. Now, the soul is silent and bent and humble, constantly giving light, but staying hidden. And this Nun shows that to be bound to the Creator's will, not to our own personal, egotistic way. If we're to do that, then we must bend above and below. And it shows the relationship between the body, which is impermanent, and the soul, which never dies. And I think it also represents flow, teaching you to be supple and flexible like the fish, instead of resisting change. And if you can be aware of the inner guide, you never need fear, because the Creator is always present with you. Anyway, on to the Lord of Love. And the Lord of Love is... Let's have a look at the astrology first, shall we? The astrology is Venus in Capricorn. Well, you can't get a better combination than that. Venus is the lesser benefic, the great benefic, of course, being Jupiter. So Venus brings good luck. Now, Venus is about relationship, love, beauty. Venus is also about money and business. Did you know that? Not many people do know that. And Cancer, of course, is the most maternal of the signs, and nurturing and providing the ability for things to grow. It's almost like a womb in which things can gestate. So it's a tremendous astrology that's there. Now, looking at the painting that's there, these things are called, from mythology, they're called hippocampi. One is light and one is dark, and they're entwined together. Now, in mythology, hippocampi came from the Greek word for horse monster, because they are horses on the top and they are dolphins on the bottom. And they were associated with Poseidon, whose chariot was drawn over the surface of the sea waters by those things there. And above these joyfully entwined hippocampi are... Oh, incidentally, here's a moon here. The moon is the ruler of Cancer. And two cups, well, I'll get to the cups in a second. And look at these two bees here that are sitting there. Now, for me, I think that bees represent the creative impulse, and they're about building sweetness. Now, I think of bees as a feminine symbol of the harmony that results in creativity. Now, they collect nectar, don't they? And I'll tell you something interesting about bees and nectar, and in the context of this card of the Lord of Love, there's a bit more light on that for you there, is, do you know, now of course the Lord of Love often ends up in marriage, and after people have marriage they have a honeymoon. Now, do you know why it's called a honeymoon and where that idea came from? Well, it comes originally from these bees, because bees collected the nectar and produced honey. People in the old days would come along and gather the honey and ferment it into a thing called mead, which was an alcoholic drink, sometimes up to about 20% alcohol. And what they would do is the people would provide to the newly wed couple a month's worth of this very alcoholic drink, a month being a moon's worth, that is for the moon to go around its cycle per month. So, and as a result of the couple taking the highly alcoholic drink that, well, often fertility was put to good use, if I can put it that way. So the honey and the moon came together as a result of that bringing people together through the wonderful lubrication of alcohol, one of the greatest gifts that have been bestowed upon mankind. But this is talking about close bonds, togetherness, love, harmony, and a relationship that is strengthening, I think, and a mutual love and respect. You know, I think that there is a receptive love here, happy relationships, and an emotional exchange. You understand that if you love yourself, you are attractive to others. Your receptiveness towards yourself prepares you to give yourself totally to someone else. A deep emotional exchange will be possible, a giving and receiving of overflowing love. The union will occur in complete harmony, as is symbolized by these entwined creatures here. Now these cups are filled and overflow, symbolizing the overflowing riches at present. This is an image of complete joy and silent ecstasy. The water is still and the sky is clear and blue. Deep joy flows into the emotions, and the energy of renewal is everywhere. Thoughts are free and clear, and seen through the eyes of love, the world appears transformed. You know, your readiness to receive love makes you attractive. Surrender to yourself, to others, to life. But the love here is not just romantic. It can also extend to friendships. It can extend to personal things. This is also, interestingly, very good for people who are involved in sales or dealings with other people, working in partnership with other people. It's very good for close friendships. Now, with which persons and in what surroundings can you now share your love? Pay attention to the love coming to you now, and remain open and let it enter into you and go deep inside. And say this to yourself: there is nothing to do but to enjoy what life offers. I'm now ready to let into my life the love relationships that will fulfill me. And then following on from love, there is here great fertility all around, in my opinion. And I think the people who are going to be important to you now are Taurus, Gemini again. That's interesting. That Gemini was there. In Gemini again here, and also Aries could well be important to you. Let's have a look to see what is going on quickly. Here, there is this crest of the, well, it's the crest of the, is that a sheep? Well, yes, it's a ram, so that's actually Aries there. But I think it's not just restricted to that. There's other things. Now, she has a sheepskin clothing around her. She's got the ram's horns coming out. Here is the solar disc behind her. Here is the disc of Babylon, and she's standing rather provocatively and sensually, I should say, on the rolling hills. Now, this means to me that I think that you'll have a mastery of structure and putting things together, design, not necessarily architecture, but a great sense of colour and space and depth and what works with what. That could be fashion, hair, makeup. It could be working with things with your hands. It could be building things or designing things. It could even be software, for example. Because I see you having a great energy in dealing with material things, and you will be unshakable but quite cautious. Now, I think that what we have here is that there's a time when you are actually going to be beautiful and strong, pregnant with life, generous, kind, and benevolent. And I think what you should do is say, be prepared for something new to enter your life. Prepare yourself. Now, what must you do in order for something new to come into your life? Say this to yourself: I am now ready for the new beauty in my life. Well done, you. Good job. Well, I personally found that to be fascinating, didn't you? What a lot of great things happening for you this month, and don't you deserve it? Surely you do, that's for sure. And it's going to be probably until next month before there's your card goes back over there, that mode card. It won't be until next month now that I see you unless you contact me privately. So, but I would ask you this: if you did enjoy the reading, then on the way out, please hit the like button because it helps the YouTube computer do things with the videos. You understand how that works. Probably a lot better than I do, I should say. But until I see you again, remember one thing, and it is this, that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.